So let's now widen the scope of this conversation. Ishwaran Ratnam joins me from Colombo, a journalist, columnist, and he's someone who's watching developments very closely. Namal is an investment banker, is with me. Also with me is India Today's Ashutosh Mishra. And Ashutosh, you've been traveling very extensively, not just in and around Colombo, you've also been to rural areas, and people are facing tremendous problems, especially when it comes to food and fuel in rural areas. What's the latest that you've been able to pick up?
Well, the Gaurav, the worst is affected is the transportation, and school colleges shut down totally. The transportation which is linking, the nearest rural parts to the Colombo city capital. So clearly when there is transportation affected, it is bread and butter, the source of income also affected. There are community, the rural belt business which is totally collapsed. When it comes to the fisheries, one of the, significant market which contributes Sri Lanka's economy, that is totally also collapsed. Still there is power cut up to 2 to 3 hours, and I remember 3 months ago there was power cut, some up to 10 to 15 hours. So all those issues, until it is addressed, particularly the rural economy, is really going to be challenging, and to get it bring on track, this requires a new policies and also the urgent attention from the lawmakers, and right upon forming the government, that should be the priority of the government. Subsequently, the education and health infrastructure, the way it has crumbled, because there is, as you rightly mentioned, there is no fuel, no food, and also no medicine. So this would require immediate import, also seeking help from the neighboring countries and also the world monitoring bodies. So clearly, the rural Sri Lanka has totally collapsed. The situation is jeopardizing particularly those who are in a smaller business, the agriculture particularly, because right upon this transition from the chemical fertilizer to the organic fertilizer, this has affected the entire agriculture produce and also its transportation. So the indirect business related to that has also collapsed. So, multiple steps that need to be taken, and what we are seeing, that people are only with a hope, but there is dissatisfaction at the moment. All of them were protesting, agitating, not in just Colombo, but all across the island, and everyone with a positive hope. The new government will bring certain policy and will, give some urgent attention to resolve this crisis at the moment.
Okay. Stay with me, Ashutosh. Before I bring in Ishwar, let me also bring in Namal for more on this. As an investment banker, the country seems to be actually going downhill right from the Easter bombing of 2019, then COVID, then this agitation. Should this agitation continue, or should everyone come together, put their shoulder to the wheel to bring Sri Lanka up once again?
The problem that we are having is the decency and democracy, right? And these politicians, right? People have been paying their taxes properly. Business people have been doing their thing. But politicians have failed this country. They have declared this country as a bankrupt, right? If not for India and some other friends, our people must be dying on the streets, right? We are worried. Still, they were saying this 73 years, the supreme, constitution. We have to adhere to it. But the constitution has not given us the jobs, job security, food, petrol, diesel. People are 6 days, 5 days, they are lining up. When Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, when he came, he said he's going to get help, but he has not got any help. Yes, of course he has got some help, but people are still dying on the streets. There are 14 of them have died. When people were brought in, legislations were brought in into the parliament when they are arguing, the Ranil Wickremesinghe, so-called Prime Minister, was laughing at them. So we thought it's very indecent act for him to come. He couldn't alleviate any of the burdens that people were suffering.
Okay.
So we are against him because he took us and the people, the struggle, as a joke.
But that's a point that you're raising. Yeah. Let me take this to Ishwaran Ratnam, also joining us on the broadcast. Sir, there are some voices that seem to indicate that it is the Janta Aragalia, the people's struggle, that will decide who the next president would be, or whether the next president would stay. Is that feasible? Is that possible? Or will the parliament on the 20th decide, and then all must go home and wait for the next course of action?
See, my concern is that, the Aragalaya seems to assume that the entire process has to be decided by a certain individuals alone. I mean, I'm not against the Aragalaya. I've been reporting on the Aragalaya. I've been there at Tallface right along, and reporting on the issues that the people are facing and the demands of the people and so on. But the main demand was that Gotabaya Rajapaksa should go home, and that was achieved. I think now it's time that people give some space and let some of the critical issues be resolved. Because if these protests continue, my concern is if the issues that we are facing with the shortage of fuel, shortage of cooking gas and medicine and food, if those would be addressed. Because what's the alternative? I mean, maybe the people need to go to an election and decide who their future is, or who their future leader should be. But right now, we are going to see parliamentarians deciding, within 225 members, they are going to pick who the next president